Hello, team. This is Mike Crump. I wanted to talk to you today about DOM manipulation using a couple different methods. This is for CIT 261. So specifically, we're going to be talking about the createElement, appendChild, insertBefore, and removeChild methods. There are many others, but we'll just take a look at those for today. So if you're like me, you're probably wondering, what is DOM? It's a term I'd never heard before. DOM is basically the document object model. That's the way JavaScript is going to kind of arrange your website into a tree of objects. So everything becomes an object on the page. The DOM, when the web page is loaded, the browser creates the DOM of the page. And then that is the standard for how to change or manipulate any of the elements within the page. And so you can see a tree of the objects here, basically how everything that's on the page is going to become an object. It's just kind of a roadmap for DOM to use. And this is how JavaScript can change everything on your page. Different DOM elements. Within the DOM element object, there's nodes. So everything on your page is going to become a node. The page itself is a node. The texts are nodes, elements, attributes. Everything becomes a node. And then the DOM element object is going to represent HTML elements. The elements could have child nodes of either element nodes, text nodes, comment nodes. Just try to remember that everything becomes a node. All these elements and objects are nodes on your page. All of these elements and nodes are supported in all major browsers. So this is something we're gonna, you could use across the whole spectrum. Elements can have attributes, and attributes are attribute nodes. All right, so how are we going to use DOM to create elements? We've talked about doing a scripture tracker application, and let's say we start coding this and we want to do something basic like make a button. That button is going to become an element. So we're going to create an element with the createElement method. Here's a very basic script on how to create just a basic button. Um, the createElement method is going to create the element node with the name that we give it. And then the HTML elements will often contain text. And if we wanted that button to have specific text, then we would use the append child element, which we'll get to next. Like I said, a lot of these elements are supported across all browsers. We can see the syntax here for the createElement, document, createElement, and then the node name that you want to create the element for. It is a string. So like I said, using this append child, this is if we wanted to name that button something specific. So we've talked about maybe having buttons on our app for kind of a beginner, intermediate, and expert reading level at the top. So maybe we'll have buttons with that. I did a basic script sample here for making a submit button, but we could easily change that to be beginner, and then the user would select one of these buttons. So if we want the button to have text, then we'll use the append child. So after we have done the createElement method to create the button, then we also create a text node so that we can give it text, and then we'll append the child with the text that we want. You have to use that append child element to do that. And if you want to create a new paragraph with text, remember to create the text as a text node, which you then append to the paragraph, and then you append the paragraph to the document. Seems kind of like extra steps going on there. I'm sure there's a good reason for it. Unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with coding to understand why we do that, but that's the process. It's kind of a multi-step thing. You'll use the insertBefore method if you wanted to insert a new child node before a specified existing child node, which we'll talk about next. The insertBefore element is going to insert a new child node before a specified existing child node. So when are we going to use this? If we had like a list. So we've talked about having drop downs of like a starting and end point for what scriptures you were reading. So if we wanted to drop down of all the different books within the Book of Mormon, then we're going to have a list. So if we wanted to, maybe we typed a list and we forgot to add Moroni in there. So we need to go back into the list of books and add one. So the insert before method is going to insert a node as a child right before an existing child, which you'll specify. If you want to create a new list item with text, then remember to create the text as a text node, which you'll append to the list element and then insert the list to the list. You can use the insert before method to insert or move an existing element. So we'll use this if we need to edit or shuffle around our lists of books in here. So there's a couple examples as basic script elements here, how you're going to create the list node, create the text node, and then append the text to the list. And then if we wanted to insert before the first child, then we'll use the insert before element. removeChild, kind of similar, is going to remove a child node from an element. So likewise, if we had listed Moroni twice, we could use that to remove an element. Not exactly sure what else we would use this for. I'm sure there'll be lots of opportunities to use it. It returns the removed node as a node object or null if the node does not exist. The removeChild node is no longer part of the DOM. However, with the reference returned by this method, it is possible to insert the removeChild to an element at a later time. Yes. Those are just a few basic elements you can use to manipulate HTML elements. Just remember with the HTML DOM, JavaScript can access and change all the elements of an HTML document. So the DOM is basically what we're going to use to change, move, access, find any of the elements within our page. So there are a couple other examples here, probably some common ones that we would be using. There are plenty other examples to be found. Most all references come from W3 Schools on this. I'm sure we'll find other sources for information on here. I hope you all have a good experience with this, and maybe you can share some further insight with here. Looking forward to learning about these. I thank you all for your time on this, and we will see you guys soon.